we've got the trachea runs down here, and it's a little bit like the hose pipe of a hoover. So it's got rings all the way down it so it can't collapse, because the pressures that they develop to bring air in and to push air out are vast. And then the air will go through the bronchial tree, so the trachea divides into two, and then they divide into two, and so on and so on and so on. At rest, they will take about 10 to 12 breaths a minute. And each breath will have what we call the tidal volume, where they will breathe in about 5 litres at rest and breathe out about 5 litres. And what happens in between breathing in and breathing out is very clever. They increase the amount of air with each breath, 5 litres up to 15 litres with each breath. But what is remarkable is that the breathing rate is tied into the locomotion gait. So when they canter and when they gallop, they breathe once with every stride. Anything up to about 140 strides a minute. So that's 140 breaths a minute, 15 litres a time. If you do the sums, huge amount of air. And these lungs get bigger and bigger and bigger. From the resting state, they actually can expand to fill the whole cavity. And the clever part about it is with the locomotion. When they extend forwards and they leave their hind legs backwards, but what actually happens in that is that they leave the abdominal viscera behind, and it has an effect of sucking the diaphragm from its curved shape back into a flat shape because of negative pressure in the abdomen, and it creates negative pressure in the chest, and huge amount of air comes in via the nose and the windpipe and fills these lungs. And then when they land and the legs go back and the hind legs go forward to produce the next stride, they squash the abdominal viscera, which forces that back forward, forces the breath out, and hence the breathing once per stride in the galloping horse. The further the distance, the more oxygen they're going to require. They tend to shallow breathe to an extent. They can do a certain amount of what we call anaerobic respiration, where the muscles can actually fire away without a huge amount of oxygen. And perhaps that's what would happen on the Serengeti with zebras being chased by lions. But we've produced an animal that we want to run over at maximum speed over an extended distance. And a lot of that has been done by human selection rather than natural selection. Respiratory system is vital. That's got to work perfectly, otherwise you get loss of performance. I think size does matter there to some extent. If we could measure that department and measure this department, if you were going to the sales with those measurements, there would be a predictably small amount that everybody would want to buy. When we get on to talking about the cardiovascular system, we'll talk about the size of the heart, and there is no doubt that the exclusive top end of the range athletes are the ones with the biggest hearts.